Officer Riley Morgan was the backbone of Camden's small-town K-9 unit, a woman of grit, discipline, and unwavering integrity. For over a decade, she patrolled the city's streets, her sharp eyes constantly scanning for trouble. But she never walked alone. At her side was Shadow, a powerful and disciplined German shepherd with sleek, black fur and piercing amber eyes that could silence even the most hardened criminals. Shadow wasn't just a police dog. He was her soul's mirror, the only one who truly understood her. Their bond was forged not in comfort, but in fire, tracking gang leaders through dangerous alleyways, busting meth labs in forgotten corners, and once rescuing a kidnapped child buried under floorboards. They trusted each other more than anyone else in the world. Riley didn't just give commands, she spoke, and Shadow responded with instinct and heart. At the end of every shift, as the sun dipped behind the station walls, Riley would kneel beside him, rest her forehead against his, and whisper, "You and me, buddy, no matter what." He would lick her cheek softly, a silent promise. To outsiders, it was a routine, but to them it was sacred, a vow of loyalty no badge could represent. They weren't just a K-9 team. They were family, bound by duty, forged in love, unbreakable. It was supposed to be a standard operation. One night, Riley received a tip, anonymous but urgent, about a warehouse harboring traffickers and illegal weapons. Trusting her instincts and backed by years of experience, she led the raid herself, Shadow close at her side, ready for anything. But the moment they breached the entrance, chaos erupted. Gunfire blazed through the dark. Screams tore through the air. When the dust settled, it wasn't traffickers that lay dead. It was innocent workers caught in a trap. Something had gone terribly, terribly wrong. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Body cam footage from the operation, standard protocol, had mysteriously vanished. Her team claimed she was the one who gave the fatal order to shoot. The ballistic report showed the fatal rounds came from her service weapon. Then came the final blow. A bag stuffed with unmarked cash was discovered in her locker. Her fingerprints were on it. The headlines were merciless. Decorated officer turns killer. The city turned on her overnight. Riley's protest fell on deaf ears. She was silenced by bureaucracy, abandoned by her brothers in blue. She swore she had been set up, but no one listened. Shadow, the dog who had never left her side, was taken by state authorities. Labeled aggressive and too dangerous, he was sent to a holding facility, alone, grieving, and stripped of the only human who had ever loved him. The courtroom was cold, sterile. Far removed from the streets Riley once patrolled with pride. She sat rigid, jaw clenched, as familiar faces she once trusted took the stand and twisted the truth. Her former colleagues, men and women she'd saved, bled beside, laughed with, now testified against her, reciting rehearsed lines with dead eyes. Every word felt like a blade to the back. Her defense team begged the court to admit new evidence. Data discrepancies, tampered surveillance logs, inconsistencies in the ballistics report. But the judge, unmoved, dismissed it all as irrelevant. Her request to see Shadow was denied again, this time with cruel indifference. The dog has no bearing on this case. The prosecutor spun a brutal narrative. Riley was portrayed as a rogue cop, bitter over stalled promotions, who snapped and took justice into her own hands. They showed the planted money, the doctored photos, and they framed it all in the ugliest light. Then came the verdict, guilty with a sentence of death. Gasps filled the room. Even reporters paused their typing. But Riley didn't cry out. She didn't beg. She only whispered, trembling, "Just let me see my dog." No answer. The gavel fell. The court emptied, and the system she had spent her life defending turned its back on her. No appeal, no mercy, only silence. Shadow was hauled away in silence, muzzled and shackled like a criminal. He was sent to a cold, concrete state holding facility reserved for aggressive canines. Dogs labeled too unstable, too dangerous to ever see the outside world again. But Shadow wasn't dangerous. He was devastated. Each day, handlers attempted to coax him into obedience, offering treats, barking commands, even using harsh tones. Shadow ignored them all. He refused food for days at a time. He didn't sleep. He just paced, restless, his eyes constantly scanning the gate as if Riley might appear at any moment to bring him home. When they approached his cage, he growled, not in hatred, but in warning, stay away. He didn't trust them, not after what they'd done. In the far corner of his cage, untouched and half covered in dirt, lay Riley's police vest, the last piece of her they allowed him to keep. When night fell and the facility quieted, Shadow would drag it close, rest his head on it, and whimper softly into the fabric. One handler, a young recruit with a soft heart, watched him from the hallway and whispered to a colleague, "He's not violent. He's grieving." The others didn't understand it, but the staff gave him a nickname that slowly spread through the facility. They called him the Widow, not because he lost a master, but because he had lost his entire world. When the date for Riley's execution was made public, it sent shockwaves across the country. News stations lit up. Protesters flooded the courthouse steps. People Riley had once saved, victims, witnesses, families, came forward, speaking out in disbelief. "She saved my daughter. She took a bullet for me. This can't be real." But their voices, no matter how loud, came too late. The wheels of justice had already ground forward, unyielding. On her final night, behind bars in a dim cell, Riley sat silently under flickering fluorescent lights. When the warden asked if she had any last requests, she didn't ask for a meal or a priest. Just one thing, to record a message. The prison agreed. A single camera was placed before her. Looking straight into the lens, her voice calm but unwavering, she spoke. "I forgive you, all of you, but the truth will come out. And when it does, it won't come from me. It'll come from the only soul who ever truly knew my heart." The next morning at dawn, her life was quietly taken. No ceremony, no media allowed inside. Her ashes were to be discarded anonymously. No family came to claim her. The prison walls echoed only silence, broken by a whisper of regret no one dared to voice. But far away, in the gray quiet of the facility, something stirred. A restless spirit not of a ghost, but of loyalty made flesh and bone. Shadow raised his head to wind, eyes glowing. Something deep within him had awakened, and it would not rest. That same night, mere hours after Riley's execution, Shadow vanished. No alarms, no struggle, just a trail of wet paw prints disappearing into the night. A guard was found unconscious near his enclosure, pulse steady but memory wiped clean. The cage gate hung open, untouched by tools. Surveillance footage for the entire wing had been mysteriously corrupted. Static, glitches, black screens where his cage should have been. It was as if Shadow had become a ghost. Whispers began to spread among the staff. The widow's gone. Some believed it was divine. Others feared it was revenge. But Shadow wasn't rampaging or hiding. He was tracking. Through alleyways, abandoned lots, and busy intersections. He moved like smoke, always just beyond reach. Animal Control launched a full-scale search. But their traps came up empty. Citizens claimed sightings. He passed my shop at midnight. He was standing outside the courthouse, staring. Shadow wasn't lost. He was following something older than memory, a sense soaked in betrayal. The man who stood on the witness stand and lied. The one whose bullet started it all. Riley's former partner. Her betrayer. Every instinct inside Shadow screamed toward one direction. He wasn't wandering. He was hunting. And the closer he got, the more relentless he became. Because justice had been buried once. He would not let it die again. Shadow found him. Officer Darren Cole, Riley's former partner, now retired and living in quiet luxury, was lounging in a sleek home far from the city streets he once policed. He thought the storm had passed. Thought the truth had died with Riley. But one night, as he stepped outside to retrieve his mail under a moonless sky, he froze. There at the edge of his lawn stood Shadow, still as stone, eyes locked on his. Cole reached for his gun, but Shadow didn't move. Instead, the dog stepped forward and dropped something at his feet, a small, battered camera, one of the old, chest-mounted types used in K-9 operations. Cole's face drained of color. Inside that camera was a hidden recording, something Riley had secretly tucked into her vest the night of the raid. A backup she never told anyone about. And Shadow had protected it, hidden it, carried it all this time. The footage was raw but clear. It showed Cole firing the first shots in the warehouse, before anyone else moved. Then it showed him slipping the cash into Riley's locker, positioning the gun, staging the scene. Cole panicked. He smashed the camera, but it didn't matter. Shadow had already done the unthinkable. He had led reporters, whom he had quietly drawn to house with a trail of clues, straight to Cole. Copies had already been distributed. The footage exploded online. An independent investigation was launched within hours. Riley's name was officially cleared, her honor restored, and the dog who loved her more than life had done what no one else could. He had brought her justice. Riley's name was finally spoken with reverence again. The governor, acknowledging the miscarriage of justice, issued a full posthumous pardon. Her record was cleared, her honor restored. A ceremony was held in the heart of Camden, where officers, many of whom once turned away, stood in silent respect as her ashes were interred beneath a marble headstone, engraved with her badge number and the words, "Faithful until the end." And standing apart from the crowd, silent and unmoving, was Shadow. No leash tethered him. No command was given. He stood on his own, as he always had beside her, not as a pet, but as family. For days after the ceremony, Shadow remained by her grave. He wouldn't eat. He wouldn't rest. Rain poured down on his matted black fur, but he didn't flinch. He simply stayed, his head resting gently on the grave, as if listening for her voice one last time. The townspeople, moved by his devotion, erected a statue beside her grave, Riley kneeling, her hand resting on Shadow's head, both gazing forward as one. Beneath it, the plaque read, "For those who serve with love, and those who love beyond death." Eventually, Riley's childhood friend June, a quiet, kind-hearted veterinarian, offered Shadow a home. He accepted her warmth, her care. But every year, on the anniversary of Riley's death, he would vanish. And each time, the groundskeeper would find him at the cemetery, lying by her grave, unmoving, watching, waiting.